Hi, I'm Brittan Bright, and welcome back to iAcquire's Cliff Notes Tuesday. This week we'll be continuing on with Karen McGrane's book, Content Strategy for Mobile. I'm going to be covering Chapter 7, which is about people and process. Karen describes this as very, very crucial to the success of having a content strategy for mobile. People determine who does what, and that's often has a much larger impact on the success of mobile strategy than any other factor. You need to have the right people in place to be aligned on the what, the why, and the how. For process, you really need to determine how to make it work. So something she points out in the book is that often people rush to market with a new app for mobile or a grand idea without really thinking through how to revise current content process and include the current people involved in creating content into a smooth workflow and changing the measurements and the way that you iterate a process around success for mobile. So we're going to be covering that today. One of the first things she points out under the people section is leadership, which is really, really important. The people you put into place in leadership need to be able to evangelize why mobile is important to business executives and internally. They need to be able to understand mobile behavior as it stands now and as where it's going in the future, and be constantly analyzing and looking at things. Also need to be able to work well interdepartmentally because mobile touches so many different pieces of a business, just like content does itself. Organizational structure is very, very important. Silos are a very bad thing. I would tend, in my own experience, to agree with this very much. One thing that's important when you're setting up a leadership structure is making sure you define who owns what, who does what, and understanding how that all works together. What happens is when you separate mobile from other content initiatives and you separate out a organizational structure that does not have people accountable to an overarching content theme. So having silos makes things very, very difficult. You want to make sure that you're incentivizing teams to have one vision of a company and have one understanding of what you're trying to do. So when users come to your mobile site, they are still thinking that you're the same company that they visited on your desktop site. They have the same expectations. So if they don't have separate expectations for your business, you shouldn't approach them separately with your organizational structure. Going into roles and responsibilities. Some of these may align with current roles and responsibilities in terms of content production, but some of them may vary. So it's very, very important to understand that a lot of different people touch content. You've got IT, legal, marketing, sales, PR, UX, HR, everybody's got a piece of it in general. That doesn't change for mobile. So she notes some of the different roles and responsibilities that are important to think about when thinking about a mobile content strategy. Content package creation. This may mean something different than the desktop site. This is important to consider and possibly have one person be clearly responsible for when it comes to defining roles. Taxonomy and metadata. There's going to be a lot of different ways that things can be said. You may have different editors. You want to make sure that you have one person responsible to have uniform taxonomy and metadata across the site. Media production and mobile editor. These are good roles to consider, specific to understanding what this means for mobile, but also still aligning all of the goals and all of your resources to an overall content strategy. Process determines how to make it work. And a really, really important part of this process is analytics and how you look at that differently. There's two things you need to think about is measurement. So there's a lot of different factors that come into play, and it's going to be very unique to your organization. And also take some patience and time until you've gathered enough data to really make a true analysis. You're going to be looking for things like, as your mobile site usage increases or people are visiting you from mobile devices, is your desktop visitation decreasing? Are those joined together? Does it mean more of your audience is looking for you on mobile? What does that actually mean? Also, time on site and different engagement metrics. Those are important to understand and where people are going. search queries, how they're looking for you, trying to determine if people are expecting a different experience or looking for different aspects of your business when they're searching from a mobile device. Now, all of that information is really important, and of course everyone will want to be quick to jump to conclusions, so it's really important to have a decision-making process clearly defined, especially before you have enough data to make quick decisions. So, doing user research is something that is important to factor into also how you're measuring things and determining different KPIs and different measurements for your mobile content to make sure that you're not holding it to the same standard as your desktop content. Next section is one we know a little bit more about here in this building, SEO. She discusses SEO for mobile in the book in a really cool way that I appreciate because Google encourages us to have responsive designs on our site. She said that an option is not to focus for SEO at all for mobile. There's too little known. We should be able to account for it in different areas. So if you're not sure what to do or you're not sure how people are responding to mobile content yet, the one option is to not do anything at all, which means follow the strategy that you already have for your site. Also, to understand that mobile does not always equal local and to not go forward with that assumption. A lot of people do make that assumption. And people are doing mobile or searches on their mobile device that aren't necessarily local. So keep that in mind. And also keyword research, how you may apply that differently to content that is specifically for mobile devices, what keywords people are using, what their intent is behind it, and that's going to map right back up to analytics. And then approval process. This one is really important and very interesting and absolutely evolving, as is the approval process across the industry. So something that's important for legal review is that there might be a lot of different small sections of content to approve, and it is challenging to find a good format for your legal department to review your content. So basically, this is something to think about as you're doing mobile content strategy, not after the fact, because it can become a huge mess and a huge bottleneck for you. So understand what the best way to provide the content in a clear way and how it will be served up to users, to the legal department for review, so that you can make the review process go faster, as it might be different than the current review process that you have in place. And also for business preview and Q&A for other departments that are stakeholders in the content and on the mobile site and on the site itself. So this is often an afterthought. I would really, really encourage this just from personal experience to factor this into things that you need to put into place to make your content strategy work for mobile. That's basically all. It's just getting ahead of the game, thinking about leadership, who you put in place, who owns what. Make sure that you're not siloing it. Make sure that you're predicting different areas that are very key to success, understanding success and how to apply it, and to be able to make the process iterative and successful. Thanks.